This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Intuit QuickBooks. Accounting professionals and bookkeepers have long been at the forefront of using cutting-edge technologies to take the profession to the next level and to ensure they're delivering the best possible service to their clients. Whether you want to grow your firm or sharpen your skills, Intuit QuickBooks provides you with the AI-driven products, services, and the resources that you need to help all sides of your career take shape. To learn more about how QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online Accountant, QuickBooks Live Bookkeeping, and the Pro Advisor program can help you grow your practice and scale your impact, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/QuickBooks. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/QuickBooks. QuickBooks, backing you.
And you want to have a person who really knows your business helping you do that, so you need to build a durable connection.
Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
I'm David Leary.
And I'm Ted Callahan, the director of the QuickBooks Live Offering.
Ted, thanks for joining us. We're here at the last day of QuickBooks, or not the last day, the end of the first day of QuickBooks Connect. It's getting a little late.
We're going to get this right at some point, right?
Yes. We will. By day 3, I will know it. So it's day 1, and we're meeting you for the first time, and I think most of our listeners are meeting you for the first time. So, what's your background? How'd you get here?
Sure. Yeah, so I've been at Intuit a little over 2.5 years. Joined their self-employed team, and I know you guys have talked with the QuickBooks self-employed crew in the past. I had a unique role where it was actually building a bridge across 2 different business units so that we could really have the TurboTax self-employed offering and the QuickBooks self-employed offering work together and build a flywheel from that accounting product into the tax product.
Interesting. Good. And then you've came over to the small business side, and it's all QuickBooks Live now.
Yep. Joined the QuickBooks Live team in May.
Got it.
So I think the last time we talked about QuickBooks Live on the show, it was still in a development phase.
That's right.
It was not live yet. And since then, it has expanded beyond the Boise office. I think it was like 10 bookkeepers to start, very like trial.
Right.
phase.
We had a Boise bookkeeping lab, and we still do. And so we had a crew of bookkeepers there so that we could test and iterate really quickly, figuring out how exactly does this all work? Because obviously Intuit's traditionally been a software company, not a services company, and you've got to really learn your way end to end how to operate that as a true business.
Can we pause on that? Because so we were walking last night after dinner, and we were thinking about like software companies getting into the service game, right? And it's hard, right? And then also we started talking about margins, right? Traditionally, software companies are running 80-90% margins. And the WeWorks now, and you look at Ubers and Lyfts, the software companies, tech companies are trying to do the human element, their margins, they're running at like 40% margins. Like, why would Intuit even do this at some level, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had the same question when they came to me with the opportunity, to be candid. And I think fundamentally it comes back to the process that we use to really understand what are the needs of our customers. And so when we talk to our small business customers, 60% are already connected to an accountant. I know Rich covered that when he was with you guys back in June. There's a whole other set then, 40%, right? Tough math. That aren't connected. And when we talked to them, we found out what are your biggest problems. It came down to they didn't have confidence that they were keeping their books correctly, and they also weren't spending the time to maintain those books. And it was a compounding problem. Because they didn't have the confidence, they wouldn't dedicate the time. And you can see that just getting worse and worse. And so literally, when we're looking at some of these small businesses' books, they'll have over 800 unreconciled transactions. They'll have hundreds of duplicate transactions because they've implemented a third-party app incorrectly. And so they were really eager for us to help them solve those problems. But they didn't feel like they were ready to go to the Pro Advisor network and get the kind of help that we already offer through that platform today.
I can see that. Yeah. So it's intimidating. Like if you haven't reconciled ever, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's this.
Well, and maybe you've never had an accountant or a bookkeeper before in your life, right?
Right.
And so that's where QuickBooks Online is different in that, or QuickBooks Online QBO Live is different in that you can engage with a bookkeeper directly through the app. Right?
Exactly.
It's video conferencing inside of QuickBooks. I've used the TurboTax Live product.
Right.
Dave, did you use it too, David?
I paid for it and never used it.
Because
I sent a message and Claudel was not available, and that's very upset.
So we haven't gotten to try QuickBooks Live yet, but I assume it's like the same. Is it the same tech?
It's very similar tech. Yeah, I think the critical difference is TurboTax Live. They are transactionally helping a customer with a problem as you're going through a very linear flow of getting your taxes done. You've got a very clear goal, get that thing done.
Yeah.
Bookkeeping is a different matter because it is every month you've got to do it again and again. And you want to have a person who really knows your business helping you do that. So you need to build a durable connection. And so similar tech, right? Fundamentally, same platform is the ultimate vision. But if you think about building that durable relationship between a team of bookkeepers and that small business entity, that requires some very real back-end lift.
Yeah, and how does that work then, given that it's not transactional? Am I assigned a single bookkeeper or?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way that it works is you're assigned a team of bookkeepers where you have one primary bookkeeper who's the lead. And their job is really understand your needs, then put together a personalized plan for your business, and then manage the team to make sure they deliver great product on time for that business. And then the team is there to support, provide greater depth, expertise as needed, extra muscle in those clumpy seasons when more transactions come in, things like that.
And these live bookkeepers are anywhere, right? They can work remotely?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
United
a great
States, globally?
So right now we're only in the United States and all of the bookkeepers are in the United States. It's a very common question we get from the small businesses is they say, wait a second, is this going to be a call center experience? And we say, absolutely not. Right? This is truly about providing expertise for your business. And so in-market is important.
So where are you at in the size journey? Because I think early on some of the projections, we were working backwards from that and like, oh my gosh, Intuit's going to be like the 60th biggest accounting firm like overnight. And so are you still ramping up? I forgot the numbers from before. It was thousands, right? You were going to ramp up really quickly.
There's all kinds of great projections, right? And the great thing about a forecast is the only thing you know is that it's wrong. And so it's very early days, right? We're just announcing the service, so we're not providing any public figures. But what I can say is that the demand continues to outpace supply. And so we're constantly looking for more high-quality bookkeepers. And we can talk about their qualifications as well.
Yeah, so who can be a live bookkeeper?
Yeah, so great question.
You did kind of tee that up.
I know, I was about to say, that was something nice segue. We just met each other. We already got that kind of vibe. So we ask that they would, a requirement is you've got to be a certified pro advisor who's active, right? So that means you're current on the latest QuickBooks Online set of features and capabilities. We also require at least a year of active service in that QuickBooks world so that you have some real depth and content expertise. We also want to make sure from a background perspective that you either have a degree in accounting or finance or that you've been working as a bookkeeper for at least 3 or more years. And that's because we know a lot of the great bookkeepers, my sister-in-law is actually one of these, haven't actually completed school, but they've developed real practice and craft expertise that we want to honor.
I'm a CPA now, but I was a music major.
Oh, yeah?
And a bookkeeper for many years before I ever got my accounting. So I appreciate that because otherwise you'd be kind of blocking people that are otherwise qualified. So that's great.
So there's some great announcements for the QuickBooks Online Accountants Edition today. Great features were added in there, I would argue. And I'm wondering, were those features already on the roadmap? Were they being built? Or is this because now that Intuit's truly a bookkeeper, right, is Intuit's experiencing these pains and finally Intuit is adding real functionality? Like those features that were added today were super, super functional features that people need.
Yeah.
Now that you're actually eating the dog food and going through the pains of running a bookkeeping practice, like are we going to see better and better features added to QuickBooks for everybody?
It's a really insightful question. I certainly think when you don't only eat the dog food, but you pay for the cost of the dog food, you look at that set of features that get prioritized probably in a different light. And so we've been working very closely with the accounting team to prioritize those common features and get them across the line when we didn't have enough resources on them.
And for context here for our listeners who didn't get to go to the keynote, we were looking at Arij introduced the Optimization Center, right, which you can actually see an efficiency score for each client based on how automated they are. I thought that was pretty cool. Very useful for your live team as well, I imagine.
What I love about that is I see that score, this efficiency score, and you want to get your clients 85% or higher to be efficient and scale. And I could see internally that's the only way Intuit could make QuickBooks Live work. You're going to have to scale this massively at the Intuit scale level, right? But what's great is like I could see you guys using that internally, but you put in the product for everybody else, for all accountants and bookkeepers.
Well, and that was a question we had is, would these live tools for the live team be available to all pro advisors? And it seems like that's happening.
Yeah, I think a key message that I've really been testing with all of the different conversations I've been having is that we fundamentally believe that this is a win-win because we're growing the market for services. right? We talk about out there in the wild, 7 out of 10 small businesses aren't connected to an accountant. That's an opportunity for everybody that's here at this conference from an accounting perspective. And I think, again, that gap that we see where they say, hey, we're not quite ready, here's where we can step into that and help provide some transparency in the category of what is bookkeeping, how do I pay, and have all of that transparency right up front is really clarifying. I think will help grow that market.
The two other major features that were announced were a bookkeeping review area where almost like a checklist, right? Of here's everything that I need to do, linked to certain areas of QuickBooks, like here's what I need to close the books, basically.
Yep.
And with a customizable aspect too. I think that's neat in that firms will be able to, or individuals will be able to create like a customized close checklist for each client. And then the last one was the business performance overview, like KPI charts, like not a huge number, but all the, really essential ones, right? So that brings me to my next question, which is, what exactly is the live offering going to encompass as a service offering?
Oh, like will live eventually get into the advising game?
Yeah, are they going to take me through my KPIs? Are they going to help me set them up? Are they, that's been a big question for us, is what exactly is the scope of that $400 per month service?
Right.
Because I, as an independent pro advisor, also offering similar services, I need to price my services. And so I kind of want to know, what is the QuickBooks Live?
Yeah.
What encompasses that?
It's a great question. And so I would say I'd break it out into 3 discrete pieces. The first is all around setup, getting that small business customer appropriately set up with their bank feeds and their third-party apps, which again is a place where we see folks can get really messed up. Then there's that core, I call meat and potatoes bookkeeping work, which is the categorization of the expenses, the reconciliation of the transactions, and then also teaching the customer key workflows in the product. Because again, my analogy for this is QuickBooks is a very powerful tool, right? Like a chainsaw, you can cut down a huge tree with it, or you could chop off your own arm if you don't know how to handle that thing. And so teaching our small business customers how to use the product in the right way is a fundamental task that QuickBooks Live is providing, where the small business owners are getting a lot of value. And again, that's improving their confidence and their desire to actually engage in the product. Your last point on the personalized reports, that's also a key part of the value delivery, because this is all about giving a customer the insights so they can be managing their business better and then making those right decisions to grow their business.
So my QuickBooks Live Bookkeeper would walk me through those reports every month?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the personalized plan. That's what they come up with of, hey, what do you need to be managing your business? Where are you? So one of our early customers was a surf shop in Hawaii, and they had just gotten a bank loan, and the bank was requiring them to be providing much more sophisticated reporting. And so they actually hired us to help them as they started scaling up their operations from 1 to 3 different places, including a coffee shop. And so we were very much a part of help us deliver that monthly income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flows to the bank so the loan gets paid down appropriately.
So the price is $400 per month, is that right?
Oh yeah, so we've rolled out 3 different price points now.
Okay, because that's what I was wondering, how you could possibly serve the wide variety of QuickBooks customers at one price point.
Yeah, so we now have a $200 offering a month, a $400 per month, and then a $600 per month offering.
And what differentiates those?
It's all around the amount of expenses a small business has per month. So if you have $0 to $25,000 a month in expenses, you'll be in the $200 SKU. If you have greater than $150,000 a month, you'll be in the $600 SKU. If you're in between $25,000 to $150,000 of expenses a month, you'll be in that $400 price point.
Gotcha.
No, that's a good way to do it versus transaction volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, we, as you would imagine, we explored a lot of different, and what the goal was, how can we clearly communicate to a customer what to expect in a way that made sense and scaled with what we would need to be doing for them on the back end.
So now that QuickBooks Live, it's kind of, you're advertising it, right? You're not running a Super Bowl ad yet or anything crazy like that, but it's being advertised. It's out there. It's the covers are off. Is it bringing in like new small businesses to the QuickBooks family that just never approached it before, or even new accountants and bookkeepers are joining QuickBooks Live that maybe the typical pro advisor fit wasn't for them? Like they don't have a firm, but they kind of want to do bookkeeping.
Yeah, great questions. And it brings it back to that vision of solving for both sides of the market, right? Both the small business and the accounting professional. So on the small business side, the answer is it's both and, right? We see that 40% of our current customers who aren't attached to an accountant who said they need help, they're super excited about the service and they're signing up for it in droves. And then also, like you said, there's a whole slew of customers out there who never considered QuickBooks because they viewed it as do-it-yourself accounting software. And they said, hey, I don't want to do my books. I want someone to do that with me. And so we're testing into how do you communicate to that set of customers, because that's a very different value proposition and, candidly, a marketing machine to go do that. So that's on the small business side. Yeah. On the pro advisor side, because we have that requirement of you've been active and you've been a pro advisor for over a year, I think it's exactly what you would expect on the pro advisor side, but maybe you had more behind the question. Happy to.
No, I'm just wondering I feel like you can kind of group some of the pro advisors in different buckets, right? I think you have some people that they're value pricing, they have a niche practice. For them, they just look at QuickBooks Live as nothing. It's not going to compete with them, et cetera. Then I think on the other end of the bell curve, you have, and you'll see it in these Facebook groups, there's people that are like, how do I grow my bookkeeping practice? How do I get clients? How do I get clients? How do I market for? They don't. Almost their questions are like, they don't really want to run a bookkeeping firm, right? And I can see where they're like big fans of QuickBooks Live because they're going to be able to just do what they want to do, which is just do bookkeeping for small businesses. And they work from home, they have lots of flexibility, et cetera. But I think that the people that I feel like are the most threatened, I feel like are the people that they have a practice and it's very similar to the offering QuickBooks Live has. And I think those people feel the most threatened because they do have clients, they have a real business, right? They're past that, how do I get any clients phase, but they're also not in the new world of offering advising and value-added services. And I think those are the ones that have the biggest fears, the biggest threats, and the biggest concerns about QuickBooks Live. And like, where are those people going to fit in?
Yeah, what do you say to the pro advisor who loses a client to QuickBooks Live? Because it will inevitably happen.
Yeah. I think so. All great questions, and I think fundamentally what you guys are doing is you're segmenting the accounting market, right, into these different groups. And so I would say for the pro advisors that have the practice, they actually this has been the surprise of the conference for me personally. They're actually coming up saying, "I would love to partner with you and hand over my bookkeeping practice to you, or at least a portion of it. Let's test into that." And that's something that we were not prepared to have happen. And literally, I've got over a dozen business cards of different firms asking to do this.
It's good that you answered that, because I actually have a question from a listener who was asking, do you plan on partnering with people and letting, like, if I'm trying to grow my firm, how do I utilize QuickBooks Live to help me grow my firm?
Exactly. And so we actually had two sessions today. We actually had to move to a larger room because there were so many people that were wanting to come learn more about it, which is great.
I could hand off my lower end work to QuickBooks Live, right, so that I can focus on the higher level tax advisory.
All part of that advisory vision that we talk about. So that's an important opportunity that we need to now say, okay, have we really earned the right to do that? We'll figure that one out.
The demand is there, apparently.
So how does that work, right? Because Rich Priest talked about before how Intuit's going to own the relationship with the small business owner, right?
And that was in that model of exactly how I've been articulating. Small business customer saying they're not ready for an accountant. This is different. This is a small business customer who's made that choice. And so that's a different world.
So that's what I'm trying. So if I'm an accounting firm and I have some clients that I'm like, I can't be doing the work for these clients until they get a little bigger and I can provide more value. And so they're going to kick them to QuickBooks Live for a while. And then how do they get them back?
Yeah. So these are all things we need to go figure out. And as you would imagine, Intuit is a very principled company. And so we would establish a very clear set of principles of, is this our customer relationship or is this the accounting firm's customer relationship? And then we would have to think through what are the different use cases and make sure we're solving each one appropriately, both for the needs of that small business customer and that accounting partner.
Because I could see like a graduation here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you can even see it going back and forth to your point, right? An accounting firm says, hey, not right for us, send them into the QuickBooks Live offering. Then because we know that when you work with an accountant, you're more likely to be successful, they graduate, then we can hand them back would be the vision, right? But you can imagine the complexity of tracking and managing that through time. And
if anyone can do it, I think Intuit can
if anyone can make it super complicated, Intuit's going to figure that out. Yes. Do you ever see like a collision between, because you're starting to see a lot of companies now are doing this software as a service, and accounting firms are adding engineers, they're having a front-end software product. And we've seen acquisitions of tax companies buying accounting software products. Is there a collision course where there's going to be an offering like, I'm a small business owner, I'm getting TurboTax, I'm getting QuickBooks, I'm getting QuickBooks Live Bookkeeper, I'm going to TurboTax Live Accountant on one price point. I just get it all at once. Is this on a collision course here?
I mean, you could definitely make the case there's going to be this grand convergence in the future. Where my head goes to is, have we earned the right to do that today, right? I mean, there's a lot of capabilities in QuickBooks that don't exist yet to have that seamless flow. On the TurboTax side, they don't even have a business product, to my knowledge, that's online, right? So that's not where things are. And then I think also the concept of how do you communicate that credibly to a customer, you'd really have to think through how do you position that, right? I think anytime we get those big grand visions that we can all see, oh, this makes a lot of sense, everyone will do this. Then you go, how would you go tell somebody and convince them to buy that if they don't know you? That bar gets really challenging, it turns out.
That makes sense. No, I think one of the questions I've talked to people is like oversight. Like who's making sure the QuickBooks Live bookkeepers are doing their jobs correctly?
Yeah.
And where's that oversight? Because, I mean, if you talk to pro advisors in general, they'll get a client and like, oh, the last bookkeeper messed all their stuff up, right? And
absolutely.
how are you guys managing that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So couple answers for that. First of all, we're absolutely managing that. And so we've actually have 4 different roles on the back end of the experience of different bookkeepers based on their level of experience. So we have everything from an associate bookkeeper all the way up to a senior bookkeeping expert, and then 2 in between that. So that's kind of at the front lines. And only that senior expert is the person who's doing the client-facing work. Then above that, we actually have 2 layers of management watching over, where there's lots of support where we answer questions, but we're also making sure, hey, there's a standard of bookkeeping we want to be practicing, because ultimately the brand equity of Intuit, right? It represents a lot of trust to these small business owners. We have to be delivering what we talk about as a consistent wow bookkeeping experience.
Yeah, I imagine QuickBooks Live is dead if you guys start screwing up people's books.
QuickBooks Live is dead.
QuickBooks Live is dead.
Long live QuickBooks Live.
That'll be the episode title.
Yeah. Well,
you can see that now.
So Ted, I got one last question for you, which is, what is next for you and for QuickBooks Live?
Yeah. No, good question. I would say it's all about earning the right for our customers to do the job that we've set out to do, and consistently finding new ways to delight them.
And where can people find you online if they want to connect with you or learn more about QuickBooks Live?
Yep. So I'm on Twitter. I'm at ASCIV. Long story. Won't explain.
Well, we'll have to...
Or you can find me on LinkedIn.
All right.
Ted Callahan.
We'll have to hit you up at the party and find out the story behind that. I like that.
How do you get hold of you, Blake?
I am at Blake T. Oliver. And you, David?
At David Leary.
Hey, thanks for your time, Ted. This was great.
Great to meet you guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.